Buffalo in the playoffs.
We are only 1 week into the Maple Leaf season, and I don't know if there could be any more talking points than there are already. Man, there's a lot to chat about, and you've come to the right place to listen to it. We're going to talk about all of the week that was. We'll look ahead. I'm Joe Choffs. I'm here with my partner in crime, Coach Frank. How you doing, Frankie?
Doing better. I guess that 24-hour rule comes into effect after losses like that, right? So
you're a Maple Leafs fan. You need 48 hours, I think.
Yes.
You need double the time.
And let me tell you, stay off Twitter. Stay off Twitter.
It makes it worse. I agree. It takes your blood that's already boiling and it kicks it up a notch.
That's right.
We welcome everybody to the Puckin Leafs Podcast. It's episode 3. Thanks again for joining us. So let's start. I mean, I don't know if there's anything better that happened this opening week than The Rock joining the Maple Leafs at their home opener.
Yeah.
Getting a little bit of what The Rock was cooking at Scotiabank Arena. He even started the first ever Let's Go Leafs chant.
Leafs.
Yes.
Here we go. Let's go Leafs. Let's go Leafs. Let's go Leafs. Let's go Leafs.
And you know what? At first I'm like, no, he got it all wrong. But then I realized this is The Rock we're talking about here, and he's just playing 3D chess. He knows that the Go Leafs Go chant has not worked for 50 some odd years, so he wanted to switch it up. And you know what? I think I like the Let's Go Leafs better. It's got alliteration. Everything sounds better with alliteration. And look at it this way. If the Leafs were actually go on a run and win a cup, using the Let's Go Leafs chant, everybody is going to credit The Rock for breaking the curse for the Maple Leafs. I think we should just go with it and run with it. What do you think, Frankie?
The Rock could have walked into that stadium, that arena. He could have said, "Let's go Blue Jays," and they would have said it. That's how powerful The Rock is.
It is true. It is true. I just want to apologize to the listener. I have a bout of the cold cough. It's the daycare cough cold. If you have kids like Frankie and I do, and they go to daycare, you'll know what this is. Basically, they're always sick. And I have a bit of that now. So I got my tea to soothe my throat with my Maple Leaf mug here to help me out. So just bear with me today. So there's a lot to chew on in terms of the games. We want to review it with a little segment we like to call the good, the bad, and the Leafy. And basically, self-explanatory. We're going to talk about what we liked in the week that was, talk about what we didn't like. That's the bad. And then what happened during that week that you just throw up your hands in the air and say, man, that was Leafy that happened. It seems like it always happens to this team. And there were a couple of those in the first week. So let's start with the good of the past week, something that you liked. Frankie, I'll let you open it up. What was something that you liked from the first week of the Maple Leaf season?
Very easy for me. John Tavares and William Nylander. Points in pretty much, I think, every game. You're going to need that second line to go, which at points last year, they were invisible. They couldn't get it going. They couldn't find a left winger to play on that line. Although I think Malkin scored in the first game, really, again, it's still going to be an open audition. I'm just glad and nice to see that Tavares and Nylander are scoring and at important times too. So I'm praying that continues, especially when they need it most. So that's a big thing for me.
I agree with that. I think they've played better than Matthews and Marner thus far, the first
absolutely.
4 games.
Absolutely.
For me, the good is Ilya Samsonov. Other than the second goal he let in against Washington, I thought he was very solid. Looked calm, composed in the net, didn't do too much. Wasn't very active in that. Looked like he looks very positionally sound.
Yeah.
And it looked like his confidence was growing after that second game as well. So hopefully, I'm sure he's going to get the start against Dallas and a few starts out west when they go out west. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, he can build upon that and get better as the month goes by. Now the bad. For me, we're probably going to say the same thing on this one.
Probably.
Because how could you not pick the Justin Holl and Jake Muzzin pairing again? Those two guys each took center stage and single-handedly cost the Maple Leafs at least a point, getting to overtime by giving the puck away, horrible giveaways during the final few minutes of the hockey game. It was Muzzin's turn in the opening night against Montreal. That was with like 20 seconds left. And then it was Holl's turn after he had a solid outing against
Washington.
Yes, he had a solid game against Washington. And then the wheels came off against Arizona with that giveaway on the penalty kill, where it seemed like he had all day to control the puck and just ice it, and he just tossed it right to the right to the defenseman of the Coyotes, and then just like that, they're behind 3-2 with a couple minutes to go.
Here's my thing with that. You know how I feel. You know, I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. If Justin Holl is not in your lineup, who's blocking shots on that defense court? It's what he does. It's what he does to keep himself relevant in that lineup. And folks, he's in your top four, whether you like it or not. He's now playing with Rasmus Sandin, which listen, you take the good with the bad. Sandin is a top four defenseman on this team. You obviously, I think you want him in a top four role than you want Muzzin, who's going to be out for a while. But Holl is that fourth defenseman. He is what he is. And it's an important role being a second pair defenseman. You're usually paired against other teams' top two lines. You play a lot of minutes at, close to that 20-minute mark. He is what he is, folks. You just hope now, playing with a guy like Sandin, who's going to be relied on to get that puck out of the zone, outlet pass, first pass out of the zone, and Holl just does the defensive stuff. And then if he gets caught, Sandin has enough speed to get back on any 2-on-1s or back pressure, etc. So it is what it is. He ain't going anywhere right now, guys. It is what it is.
And he's a righty shot, and they don't have enough.
He's a righty shot. I am interested to see that once Liljegren gets up and running, where Holl might be slotted back into a third pairing role, but you may have a 2A 2B pairing, because how well Liljegren and Giordano played as a pair last year, that has some potential as well. So, but hey, listen, we know what Justin Holl is. We know what he can't be, but we know what he's capable of.
I will say this about Holl. I actually think he was the better of the two between him and Muzzin. Muzzin just looked really slow to me. The puck seemed like it was a grenade on his stick, and now he's got a really tough injury, it sounds like. I mean, Mitch Marner today was quoted as saying, obviously for him, it's just making sure that if he does come back and play this year or whatever happens, just make sure that he's going to be able to do whatever he wants the rest of his life and enjoy the rest of his time with his family and kids. That doesn't sound like a guy that's coming back anytime soon.
What I didn't understand is if it was that bad, why he wasn't placed on LTIR right away? Why just the IR? Maybe it was misdiagnosed. I don't know.
Which is what they did with Murray. They placed him on LTIR right away.
Right away. So I know on the IR it's 7 days from the time of the injury, and it gets you a spot, a contract spot, if you want to call up, which they did with Philip Kral. Thank you, because I've been waiting for that one. But it's going to be interesting. Yeah, there's something not right here. Something's definitely not right.
And something also I did not like was the power play.
That was mine. I was gonna get to that.
Too much passing, not enough movement. Just sometimes you just got to get the puck to the net and crash the net.
Listen, I'm not a power play guru, okay? But you don't need to play the NHL to figure out that if you have one shooting threat on the power play, you know where the puck is going. You need another one. So they move Nylander to the half board, which is good because
he's got a great shot.
Absolutely, and he's been scoring from there. Once it goes back to the point, what are you expecting? The good old Riley Tim Hortons muffin. If you're lucky if it gets through. He's a great skater, but he's not a shooting threat. So either you put a fifth forward. Do you really need a defenseman on a power play? If you really think about it, do you really need a defenseman on a power play? You might need one or two of them on the second unit because the guy coming out of the box, you want to be cognizant of that. But if your first unit, if Riley is not going to shoot the puck, what's the point? You have a 5-man rotation of a guy up top. Hey, it's going to sound crazy, but wouldn't Nick Robertson look pretty good as a trigger guy on that, on the top of the power play? Maybe not yet because, okay, he's going to play his first game soon. But I would rather have a guy like Sandin on that, which I know he'll be doing the second power play unit, but he's got a decent shot. You need to keep the penalty killers honest. You need to know that there's a shot coming from back there. It just opens up so many other possibilities. And just around and around and around it goes. They're not paying the price in front of the net. And if you are, you're not getting it there. So really, what's the point?
I agree. Even Giordano, I mean, he's not what he once was, but I think he's been solid the first 4 games. He's got a shot. I mean, you could try him up there as well.
And the worst part about it, Joe, we all talk about things that we don't want to see come back. And sure enough, the slingshot's back. That stupid play where they come up the middle of the ice. The team is giving you the entry of the zone, but yet you do that bounce back play, which a couple of times almost led to breakaways going back the other way. Giordano being the culprit of those. So that bounce back, I know it's a set play.
Every team is doing it, Frankie. Every team in the league does it.
Oh,
I get it. It's annoying because they do it every time. You got to try to keep the penalty killers on, and sometimes just skate the puck in.
That's what I want to say. That's all I'm saying. Sometimes skate it in.
What I don't understand is why can Nylander never be the puck carrier to get the puck in the zone? He's the best at transporting the puck. But it's either Marner or Matthews who are still very, very good at it, but Nylander's the best one. I'd get him to gain the zone entry and then set up from there. But again, I am no coach.
If we do it all, Joe, we'd be in the box beside Dubas and those guys right now. If not, we're here. So
yes. All right. And the Leafy. A lot of Leafy things happened this week, but nothing epitomizes Leafiness than that gong show against Arizona on Monday. I mean, not showing up on a Monday night home game against a completely terrible opponent, fall behind early, look listless for 2 periods, then decide to wake up, make a comeback, take a stupid penalty late, give up a goal on that penalty kill because you can't clear it out when you easily should have, and then the coup de grace, the icing on top of the cake, you tie the game, but it's disallowed by the Situation Room who calls down to review it. The refs didn't see it. The opponents didn't even see it and ask for the review. And it's disallowed. We could talk about that all we want. I think it should have counted. But whatever, they got what they deserved. And that was a loss that game.
Yeah.
Man, what can you say? And I would like to say, I'm glad they lost because they learned a lesson. But they obviously haven't because this has been happening for 4 years. And for the people that say, it's only the 4th game of the season, these are the same people who then complain that they have to play Tampa Bay in the first round and they have a difficult opponent. Points in October matter just the same as points in April.
Agreed. Yeah, and that's kind of where my thing was. Listen, I'm over it. It is what it is in a minute. But, those are the points that if you want to win the division, you got to win the games. And these were 2 points that were pretty much gifted to you. These are the types of games where both teams are mad at the end of the game. Toronto lost, but Arizona doesn't want to win. They want to tank hard or suck hard for Bedard. Is that? I guess that's the quote,
the new
right?
slogan. Yeah.
So, all Toronto really had to do was, you saw in the 7 minutes of the third period, was play simple hockey. Get to the middle of the ice. Get pucks on net. Again, I'm not sitting here saying we know the answer, but if you look at the goals that they scored, and they should have scored that counted, they were just simple plays that Arizona was giving them that they needed to take advantage of. Having 11 shots on goal after the second period is absolutely inexcusable. Inexcusable.
Against any team, but especially against that team.
And here's what the cherry on top for me is, Joe. At the end of the game, Keefe made a comment and he says, credit to Arizona. They dropped 5 guys in front of their goalie and we're blocking a lot of shots. It was hard for us to get through. I've heard this one before. I've seen this one before. Tampa Bay did it to you. Come on, man.
Dude, Columbus did it to them 3 years ago, and they still haven't figured it out.
It's an adjustment. You credit the other team for dropping 5 guys. It's because they were so tired that you guys had possession in their zone but couldn't get pucks to the net. That's what it is. Again, the Leafs dominated possession, but they couldn't get pucks to the net because there were 5 guys willing to block shots in front of their goalie because they were gassed. So if you're not willing to pay the price to get to the middle of the net, of course you're not going to score. You can pass it around all you want. It's not going to work against Montreal. It's not going to work against Tampa. It's not even working against Arizona. What does that tell you? This team is a perimeter team, and they're not changing anytime soon. That is what scares me. That's Leafy.
Mic drop. That is Leafy. You're correct, man. All right, let's go with some other talking points. So far, you said you were worried about their scoring, and thus far, small sample size, but scoring has not come easy for them. They've got 11 goals in 4 games. Should have had 12 with the disallowed goal, but still, that's not good enough for the caliber of players that they have. Morgan Riley, he's been on the ice for 7 5-on-5 goals against thus far. The team as a whole has given up 8 5-on-5 goals against so far this year. So he hasn't had the best of starts. And the fourth line, for all that talk about, we wanted the identity of hard to play against and all that. They're throwing a lot of hits, but I remember Ron Wilson saying, yeah, hits are great, but it also means when you're throwing a lot of hits, it means you don't have the puck. And the fourth line just doesn't have the puck. No. Their underlying metrics, we're talking about like 9% expected goals in one of their games. That means of all the chances when they were on the ice, they got 10% of them. And their opponents had 90%. They were in the defensive zone the whole time. And yes, they had a lot of defensive zone starts, but it's got to be better than that. Spezza and Simmons were giving them better than that last year.
And that's comparing to a fourth line of Spezza, Simmons, and insert forward Blackwell or Clifford or I don't know. You'd think with Camp moving down to that fourth line, they would add. It's a decent fourth line. Like it's serviceable in terms
and
of
they're physical.
Yeah, that's great.
Abe Kubel can skate. I like him. But it's just like they need more offensive zone time. It can't be your fourth line hops over the boards and then sucks the life out of your team because they're hemmed in their zone for a minute.
I also noticed the first line's been hemmed in their zone a little bit more than anticipated too, which is a bit of a concern. And now that we're talking about lineups, and you're talking about goals and all of that, is there something that I'm missing? Is Sheldon Keefe going to get a timeout in the corner if he actually touches that top line or moves some guys around? Or I saw Kerfoot on the top line, then move Bunting down to the third. Okay, that's a start. But I don't know, man. It's just when you need a goal, sometimes you got to put it in a blender, and I just don't see it. And
he's very reluctant to even mix, put Marner with Tavares, put Nylander with Matthews. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, maybe we're overanalyzing. Again, it's that game against Arizona. I get it, and they're looking at the lines are right back to what they did. I'm not going to nitpick because there's a couple guys that I just are sick of seeing right now playing, and they're just there. But hey, let's see how they come out against a better team, better teams this week. Because I tell you right now, Dallas is a hell of a team. They got a hell of a goalie too, and they're 4 lines deep. So it's going to be a real good test for them.
I'm looking forward to it because usually when they're playing a good team, they actually do raise their game. That's been their MO the last year or so anyways. They usually play better against better teams.
Yep.
Let's talk about the Keefe comments after that game against Arizona. He said something along the lines of, we lost because we have elite players and Arizona doesn't, and our elite players didn't play well enough. I thought they were fine comments. It was the truth. Nobody had a problem with it. Nobody even raised an eyebrow.
Have a problem with it.
But apparently some people did have a problem with it because he walked those comments back today saying I had to, pull them aside and, give them a pat on the back and say, it's okay, guys. I didn't mean that. Can you explain that one to me?
From a coach, sometimes we say things in the heat of the moment. You're frustrated, you're upset. That wasn't one of those things yesterday. I try to put myself in Keefe's shoes. He wasn't saying Matthews has got to be better. Marner's got to be better. Tavares has got to do this. Nylander's got to do that. He's collectively saying the truth that you can put Matthews and Marner and maybe Tavares in that superstar grouping, but collectively, they should have been better. It wasn't a personal shot. It's more of a challenge than anything. And you take that as a player and like, you know what? He's right. I don't see how that could have been offensive. And I also don't understand how a player comes out and says, yeah, well, we talked about it. And, you know, what he said maybe didn't come across as what he meant. No, he knew what he said. We knew what he said. Obviously, there's some people on this team that took offense to it that you can't call us out. You know what I mean? That's what I took from it.
I agree. To me, it's either an indictment on those players who didn't like what was said about them, or it's an indictment on management who went to Keefe and said, hey, you can't say that, which I don't understand why. Or it's an indictment on Keefe himself, who woke up the next morning, 24-hour rule, and was like, maybe I shouldn't say that about my players. There's nothing that he said that was wrong. Brucey Boudreau just called his team mentally soft after 4 games. Maybe he can walk those comments back. That's a little early to say that.
If you remember, so did Keefe last year. He used the soft comment and he walked it back. Yes. So now he set that precedence of walking it back. This wasn't one of those times. I'm sorry. Like how can somebody go from being right to wrong in a span of 12 hours? You know, I don't know. Again, it's a Leafy thing, man. It's let me ask you a question. If John Tortorella was the coach of this team, God help any of those guys in that dressing room, and he made any comment even remotely close to that, you think he's walking anything back? No. He's challenging them even more. He would have said, well, Marner sucked tonight. Matthews sucked tonight. You know, like, okay.
That might have been Matthews' worst game as a Leaf. Like, he was just fighting the puck. He couldn't make anything happen. It was one of those nights.
It just questions everything that I thought I wasn't gonna see anymore is happening. You know, it's the inmates running the asylum, unfortunately. Keefe, I'm not saying Keefe, we're not there, Joe. Obviously, we don't know. We're not behind closed doors. We don't have insiders. But that just kind of gives you an understanding of what really is going on in that room. Like, we know now who really calls the shots, if you really think about it. We know that it's a very fragile team. And that worries me. It really does. It worries me.
Yep. Even if it's not just the 4 games. I know we're 4 games into the season. It's early. We get it. It's just we've been seeing the same things, the same patterns for the last 4 years. It's not 4 games. It's 4 years. So,
and Joe, we have to learn from past. You and I sat here almost a year ago to the day when they started 2-7, and we were flipping out. You know, I admit it. We were going, what kind of start is this? Blah blah blah. Then they come out and win 10 of the next 12.
And they're capable of doing that again.
Exactly. This team will make the playoffs. They are too good not to make the playoffs. I fully believe that. I have to keep telling myself that there's no exaggeration to this. But there are little things here and there happening, like this Keefe comment. You know, like, it's starting to really bug me that, you know, maybe there needs to be changes to this culture. Maybe that's what it's needed in the long run, because there's nothing right now that convinces me that they're going to get over the hump. I'm sorry.
Well, people have been a section of this fan base has been saying that for the last couple of years, that there needs to be a change, right? All right, so let's look ahead. Why should we be optimistic about the team thus far? You got any reasons? I've got one. And
I'm gonna go back to what you said about the good. I think this is Ilya Samsonov's chance to shine, man. And you know, when you have a first round draft pick that's 25 years old, into a new city. His English isn't great. You really almost could expect him to fall flat on his face. And the guy hasn't. He's been solid, man. And now he understands that he can take the ball and run with it. The Leafs don't give up a lot of high danger chances. And if he's steady, like, listen, he could have had 2 of those goals that Sheldon let in against Arizona as well. Like, at least we could be sitting here, they could be 4-0, right? I think I'm optimistic that Samsonov gives them a chance to win these next few games and really takes the ball and run with it. So I'm gonna rely on the goaltending here.
All right, it's a good one. And for me, it's Austin Matthews. He just hasn't been Austin Matthews the first 3 games. He almost looks like last year where he missed all of training camp. He's a little bit unsure of himself. His shot's been way off. Hasn't been hitting the net. That's just going to turn, and this guy's going to score like 10 goals in 7 games. Once that happens, the rest of the team kind of falls in line, and they'll start to get more results. So we'll wait for that to happen. They've got a big week ahead. They've got obviously Dallas, last game of the homestand on Thursday. Then they head to Winnipeg on Saturday. Then they're on the West Coast. They've got the Golden Knights on Monday, followed by the Sharks, Kings, and Ducks. There's a back-to-back at the end, 3 games in 4 nights for California.
Not easy.
No, it's not easy. It's not an easy start to the season, but it really never is, right? Last week we said a good start for them would have been probably 5 points. That's what we guessed, and they got 4, so below that. These next, let's see, 6 games. How many points would you like to see if you're the Maple Leafs player, Maple Leafs management, and of course the fans? How many points are you happy with out of the possible 12?
You know what, Joe? I'm going to be a little selfish here, man. I'm going to say 10.
Ooh.
I'm going to say 10. I want to see them use this as, as fuel, as motivation. I like the fact that they got the spark plug in on the second line with Nick Robertson. I really think he's going to add a little bit more punch on that second line. I'm not going to say he's going to be a world beater, but listen, the kid can score.
Yep.
And I think that's an element missing. And I think the big boys are going to start to go. And Joe, it's always easier when they get away from home, a little more looser on the road. I think you're going to see more of an offensive push from the Leafs when they get out on the West Coast.
They were a good road team last year, so hopefully that continues this year. We didn't even mention the Matt Murray injury, which it looks like he's going to miss at least a month. I've heard it might even be longer for an injury like that for a goalie. But what that injury did allow them to do was actually have some extra players to call up for this road trip that they're about to go on, and it allows Nick Robertson to come up and get in the lineup, which he deserved to be in after that training camp anyways. So,
and sure enough,
silver lining.
He's playing his brother. That's a great start to the first game of the year. I'd like to see Simmons. He's going to get in the lineup, I think, here in and around probably in the 4th line here, because I know they're carrying him. It's just
Mete will draw in as well, right?
Sorry,
Victor Mete will draw in for Muzzin, I believe.
And Philip Kral, they're going to take on the trip as well. It's coming to the point, Joe, where this could be a road trip where Dubas says, depending on what the Muzzin situation is, if he goes on LTIR, that then becomes over $8 million in cap space for the next month and a half into 2 months. But they could add a significant piece on the back end. That this defense is starting to, one more injury, you're in big trouble. So also something to note, not a big deal, but the Marlies signed Danny DeKeyser to a PTO today. Means he can play for the Marlies. But if he plays well down there, they could free up a contract space to bring up another solid veteran into the lineup. Nothing to get too excited about as years are behind him, but there's another depth piece that they could have for nothing. Ben's coming up the rear, Liljegren's coming. So I think, though, they should really look at a significant defense piece. I think if they have the flexibility to do so and they can move a contract out to do it, you got to start looking at that seriously.
Well, if you've got Muzzin out for the entire year, which it sounds like Mitch, from his quote that we said earlier, it sounds like that's a real possibility.
Yep.
There's $5 million extra you have to spend. Who knows how long Murray's going to be out for. They could have a lot of guys on Robida Island next year. I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah, with a $4 million increase as well.
It's going to be a very expensive Robida Island next year. All right, Frankie. Any last comments? Any last thoughts before we get on out of here?
Austin Matthews, get off the milk carton, buddy. Let's go. We need you.
He'll do it.
Start putting in those goals. No, I think I'm just gonna. I want to really see my focus is going to be on Samsonov in this road trip. I want to see if they give him a bulk of the starts, which I'm sure they will, because I'm sure Shalgren's going to move in there as well. But this is the chance he wanted to show me the show me type of mentality he took when he signed here, and I really hoping this goes well because they could really use that that confidence in that. Because if you see what our boy Jack Campbell's doing out at Edmonton. Ain't looking too good for old Jackie boy, isn't it?
And it's unfortunate because I really like Jackie boy and I want him to do well, but Oiler fans, you're just not very nice. So we don't want the best for him because of you. It's on you. Anyways, guys, we appreciate all the comments and the feedback. It's been awesome. Please hit that like and subscribe button if you have a chance. The comments help us out a lot as well. And if you're not following us on Twitter, Frankie started up a Twitter feed. It's the Puckin Leafs on there as well. You can follow us. I'm Jay Choffs on Twitter, and we got Coach Frank 18, I believe it is, right?
At Coach
Big
Frank.
Peyton Manning fan. Yes,
yep.
Of course. So thanks again, everyone. We'll catch you after the California road trip, and hopefully it's a good one. Go Leafs, go. Or shall I say, let's go Leafs.
Go Leafs.
Let's go Leafs, baby. Take care, everybody.